her name?
Astara.
Astara. Hi.
Yeah. The story goes that she picks the ugliest bird, the peacock, and blesses him with her eyes.
Wow.
So that when his tail goes out, it's a reminder to us to behave because the divine mother is watching. How are you, pretty bird? Pretty bird.
Yeah,
pretty
talker,
bird.
aren't
How are
you?
you? Yeah, how are you? So Harvey Milk did his soft launch campaign here.
Really?
Yes.
Hey everyone, welcome back. Today I'm at a special location here in Geyserville, and this is the Egyptian goddess Isis Sanctuary retreat, and I'm gonna discover what it's all about. They have an animal sanctuary here. The property has been around for a long time. It's been a spiritual property for a long time. They've owned it since '78. Before that, it was a Baha'i temple for 70 years. The granddaughter of John Muir owned the property for a while. So it's a real special location. Come along and let's discover what this is all about today.
So this is our small temple. Everything on the outside, all of the beautiful hieroglyphs Lorion actually created after she came here in '78. She worked with a theatrical production company.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so she created all of these moldings, all of the hieroglyphs.
That's awesome.
All of the individual designs she created.
And are they modeled after?
Yeah, they're all real hieroglyphs.
Wow.
And what's really funny is that some of these, so she did this in the late '70s, but then in the mid 2000s, around 2010, that theatrical production company was going out of business. So someone called Lorion and said, hey, there's a theatrical production company in San Francisco that has Egyptian things.
Yeah.
Do you want them? And she goes, yeah. Well, it turns out that
it was... Of course I do.
Right. But it turns out all of the molds and all the final things were things that they had left over from when she had actually done it back in the '70s with the previous owners.
Okay.
So they didn't know that she had done this. It was completed by '83. But what's really kind of interesting about this is that in Sonoma County, they are sticklers for permits. So even though this is a shrine, we have to call it the holy shed. So it's
on your own property.
Yes.
You have to have permits for it.
Yes.
That's crazy.
And since it's more than 10 by 10, it's our holy shed. That's the joke we make. Even though it's our house of life.
So introducing the holy shed here.
That's literally what we jokingly call it. Is the night of the biggest storm is that the roof collapsed.
Oh, it actually fell in?
It fell in.
Oh, wow.
So
that's not good.
We've replaced it, but we're having, originally Lorion had this beautiful painting of the Egyptian temple of Dendara. So
up there?
Yep.
Oh.
So what we're going to do is, as soon as it's finished, we have it, so we can just project it up, and so we can paint.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, what you do is you put a projector upside down.
Yeah.
You put it on the whole ceiling, and you can just paint where the projections are. But all of this is hand painted by Lorion.
Now Lorion was the founder, and she's no longer with us.
This is Lorion Venier, and I'll tell some more of her story.
Yeah.
But that was her back in literally the 50s, and these are with her first generation of ocelots. You have to realize, back before the 1980s, there was no such thing as rehabilitating endangered species. If they died, they died. And Lorion was an early proponent of, no, we can't just let them go wild. If we have to breed them in captivity, we'll at least keep it. So she started her own breeding stuff back in the 50s.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Lorion,
she was impressive.
Well, her whole life, she really was a woman who just manifested. She was what I call the Harry Potter kid. So she had a sister who was 10 years older.
Yeah.
Her sister went to Stanford, you know, was gonna marry a rich guy.
Yeah.
And Lorion was born just to take care of her parents. She was supposed to get married, have kids, but the one who would stay at home and take care of her. But what happened was, when Lorion was 14, she said, screw this. And she was on the East Coast. She got herself, and the place where she lived, much like Harry Potter, was a room underneath her staircase.
Wow.
She had a little window. I mean, it was teeny. But the thing about her is that when she was 14, she got herself an art scholarship to the LA Art
At
Institute.
14.
Yes. So she left home, and 2 years later, her dad came out from the East Coast and says, "Oh, you're hanging out with boys. I gotta bring you home."
Yeah.
So she actually got married to her first husband, Dion, to emancipate herself. Because in those days, you couldn't just emancipate yourselves.
Wow.
So that's
she's a woman with a mission.
She was, but that was her whole life. She was supposed to be something. Everyone wanted her to be something that she wasn't, and so she just led her own life. But what I love about this place is that Lorian, her family was non-practicing Jews.
Okay.
And so, but even in that time, there was no Reformed Judaism yet.
Right.
So there was no place for a woman. So growing up, she was a spiritual person, but there was nothing for her. Back in the 70s, she moved onto a one-block street in San Francisco called Isis Street.
Really?
Yes. And that's how she discovered the goddess Isis.
That's very
well. So you
cool.
remember back in the 70s, that's when the King Tut exhibit came out. So
Isis was I actually went to that exhibit.
The original one, the gold Yes, it was beautiful.
We stood in line for I don't know how long it was. 1976, I think it was.
Well, they did the same thing for the when King Tut came again in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
They did the same thing.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Well, that's that Egyptomania that spoke to her.
Yeah.
And one of the things about Isis from not just ancient Egypt but the Roman times is that Isis is known as Isis of 10,000 names. And the big thing that drew Lorian to her is that even though Isis is the goddess of the throne for the pharaohs, she's also she who breaks the chains of slavery.
Oh.
And that's why the Romans loved her, because it wasn't the upper class that liked her, no, it was the plebeians, it was everybody, because she was a goddess who embraced everyone regarding of your status.
Oh, wow.
And in her mysteries, you were all equal.
Yeah.
And also, she was the first goddess that promised eternal life for everybody.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that was the first thing, and one of her...
She had the power of resurrection,
She did, well, that was the whole thing. She could resurrect you into the afterlife.
Wow.
So, we have the different altars. We have the east, we have the south, we have the west, this corner.
You got everything covered.
Yep. And we also have the north.
Do you use this on a daily basis?
We do.
Oh,
At
great.
12 noon, we do our ritual, which we're more than happy to film.
Oh, great.
Yeah, but we call this the House of Life. And the House of Life in ancient Egypt, which is really interesting, is the place where the magic happened. It was not the big temples, it was a smaller shrine, either where people came to give birth, people got healing, the different priests would learn their stuff there. So the House of Life is kind of like, I call it the little mini temple within a temple, but it's the place that's the busiest. Because the high holy temples you have to keep clean, there's things to go with it to keep it going.
Okay.
But the House of Life is kind of the heartbeat.
Wow.
And so we do our best. And like I said, this is a work in progress. We love this. I have to come here and actually repaint the white walls. But no, it's our labor of love that we do this and we keep this going. So in ancient Egypt, the model of temples that they used in ancient Egypt, they actually got used for monastics, both in India and in Christians. But what's really interesting is that in ancient Egypt, they had the sacred menagerie, so all the sacred animals. And Lorian actually had that at her houses in San Francisco. She sold her an animal business, which is what made her money, and came up here, the story goes, she came up here with a suitcase full of cash and bought the place.
Wow.
And it wasn't, yes, she wanted to have an artist community and all that stuff, but it was really for her animals so that they could keep surviving.
Awesome.
And actually when we walk out, speaking of our animals, I will introduce our peacocks. The reason I'm taking you out here is this is an example. So all of the animals at our place are rescues.
Oh, wow. Even the peacocks.
Even the peacocks.
Wow.
So what you have here is this is a pie peacock. So his mother wears the Persian blue with that beautiful thing. His dad was the white one over there that I'll introduce you to.
Okay.
But what's really crazy is that when he was first born, he had like one white feather. And as he gets older, we get more and more white from his feathers.
I thought it had a unique look to it.
Yeah, no.
Well,
so
but
he keeps getting more and more white, and it's kind of a little crazy. But what's really interesting here is, except for him and his dad, all of the other peacocks that we have here, including their cute little babies, they are all victims of the Coffee Park fire.
Oh, that makes sense.
But what happened was Coffee Park was a series of ranches outside of Santa Rosa.
Oh, yeah, I'm aware. That was a
But you know, when they got burnt down, it took 1.5 years for them to get all the toxic stuff out of the ground.
Yeah.
And people were still feeding them. But as the developers came through and started gobbling up all the plots, the developer said, we don't want the peacocks running around anymore. So animal control actually came out and got 12 of them. And we got a phone call one day, it was in the Press Democrat, we got a phone call from a concerned citizen saying, would you take them in? And we're like, yeah. We are state and federally licensed here. The hardest license to go through was with animal control.
Oh,
it took about 9 weeks from start to finish.
They have to come out and check your property out.
Oh yeah,
everything.
It's crazy, but we're state, like we. Yeah. So anyways, but we did that. We got 12 of them. We gave away 6 of them. And we have another peahen over here who's actually still sitting on eggs.
Really?
Yeah. And what I do is I sometimes remove the eggs, but she's a good mom, so I'm letting her sit. But I have to see it.
So I see. I can see the eggs.
Yeah, so somebody else actually laid that egg, but now she's laid a new clutch. And so when they abandon the eggs, I collect them and put them in the incubator, and then we give them to local ranches that want them, because peacocks are actually really good security birds.
Really?
Yep, they are really, really loud, so if something's on the property. But here's a story that people don't really realize.
They have a kind of a screech to them, don't they?
They do. They have a loud call. But you see his feathers?
Yes.
And see how they're called, they're always called the eyes.
Right.
And what's really interesting is that both in Egypt, Greece, and India, there's the stories of the goddess and the peacock eyes. So in Greece, it would be Hera with her peacock.
Okay.
In Egypt, it's Isis or Hathor with the peacock. And in India, it's Lakshmi or it's Mama Durga or Saraswati. And even in China, they have it with Kuan Yin. And the story goes is that the god, whoever the big goddess is, right? She comes down and she's solving all the animal squabbles because they're always fighting, right? They're just always fighting. So she goes back up to heaven. Now, as soon as she gets up to heaven, so she comes back down. This happens 3 or 4 times. And finally, on the last trip, she goes, look, I can't spend my days solving your squabbles. You got to get along because I have other celestial duties. The world has to keep going.
Right.
But in all of these traditions, it's really fascinating. She says, the story goes that she picks the ugliest bird, the peacock, and blesses him with her eyes.
Wow.
So that when his tail goes out, it's a reminder to us to behave because the divine mother is watching.
Oh, wow. What a...
Right? So, and
my whole life I've never heard that story. Well, that's a great story.
Well, that's the whole thing. That's what's so fascinating, because when you look at the peahens, they're not that pretty, but the boys are. So it's this kind of ancient, what's the difference?
I see.
And what I love is it's the goddess watching us, telling us to behave.
Wow. Where are you going to see little tiny peacocks?
Aren't they? Oh, so it's going to take about 3 or 4 months before they actually get big enough to actually see something. So this is our grandmother tree.
Yeah.
She's a 600-year-old Douglas fir. She's the only female Douglas fir in the area. And what's really unique about her is that Luther Burbank said that she was actually 4 trees growing out of 1. So you see the 2 base, you see the 3 main things, and you see the 4th one that's growing out. And they think these were all 3 individual trees that naturally grafted. And remember, Luther Burbank was really big on grafting.
Yeah.
So they said that this inspired him. Now, something to remember before I dive into her history is that this was the first Baha'i temple outside of Jerusalem.
Really?
Yes, the Baha'i started gathering here in the 1880s. It officially became a Baha'i temple in 1905 when a naturalist and vintner named John Bosch bought the property from the Alexander Valley Vintner Association.
Okay.
He came from Switzerland, about 150 acres.
Wow.
And immediately, as soon as they got here, he started having the Baha'i faith here because he was a Baha'i.
He'd be a billionaire today with 150 acres.
Oh, he would be, but
Yeah.
Well, it's so funny because the Baha'is are, they don't drink. So he actually pulled up all of his grapevines.
Oh, wow.
No, right in time for Prohibition.
Oh.
No, he was, the divine really blessed him. But also the other well-known Baha'is that were here that no one talks about was John Muir, was a Baha'i, so was Luther Burbank. And if you go to their places today, they try to secularize them so that they're easier for education. But if you look in the California archives, you'll see Mrs. Luther Burbank invites you to a salon of the Baha'i faith. Because in the Baha'i faith, you can't actually have a service without a temple. We'll get to that in a minute. But this was sacred to the Pomo women.
What an amazing tree.
And like I said, they were doing their minstrel huts here, but she also gives off this amazing sap that they would use for their sweat lodges and their baskets. Yeah. Because the Pomo women are basket weavers. So if you see all those beautiful baskets, if you go to the local casinos, you'll see those little teeny museums. Yeah. But the reason they do that is because when you grind the acorns, they're highly acidic, and you can get the runs from it. So in their baskets, they would go down the Russian River and they would wash them. Okay. But her sap would make it watertight for them. Oh. Yeah, and they would kind of make a sort of flatbread, almost like a tortilla in a sense from it. They're actually really delicious.
The roots for this must go very far out.
So I'm glad you asked about that. So in 1974, Caltrans wanted to rebuild the 101 North. And it was either through the old 128, which is the old Redwood Highway, or right smack dab through the Baha'i Sanctuary. Oh, wow. And at that time period, it was right when the EPA had to do environmental impact reports. Yeah. So they did it. And what they found is that because she was a heritage tree, because she was written by Luther Burbank, she was written by John Muir, John Bosch. Historic. Roots, they discovered that if they had built the freeway down there, they would have killed her because her roots go about... So the tree saved the property. Oh, the tree saved all of Geyserville. Yeah, wow. All of Geyserville. That's amazing. But so we're always thankful to her. I bet. But the other thing that's fascinating is that in the Baha'i faith, because they're pacifists. So just remember, I'll take you around, but the Baha'is are pacifists. And they don't believe in fighting things. They kind of believe it's not turning the other cheek, but it's a much more of enlightened state of, okay, let's avoid conflict. Okay. But what happened is when Caltrans came through, in those days, say your house was this whole bench, right? Yeah. If they just wanted this line, they could literally just come through and take that line. So the Baha'i says, because Caltrans only had one meeting. They didn't post it anywhere. Oh, wow. There was like a slip at the hardware store. Wow. So the Bahai's lawyer said, oh my gosh, there's a meeting. So they all went down there and they said, these are the two routes. They didn't talk to any of the landowners. It was literally like a town hall without being advertised. The Bab, who is the founder of the Baha'is, when he was released from what I call his captivity, when the Ottomans allowed him to leave Israel, he went to Europe, but then John Bosch says, we got to bring him out. So John Bosch took train in 1915 all the way to New York, which was like a 3-month journey. Wow. Brought the Bab back, and he was already like in his 60s, 70s. Yeah. He lived here from 1915 through 1920. Wow. And in his letters to it's called The Future of the Baha'i Faith. There's a series of letters which are his instructions and wishes for the future. He uses this tree as a metaphor of the Baha'i faith, that its roots may be in the Middle East, but it's no longer there. The future was in North America, South America, Europe, because when he got here, he was amazed that we had religious freedom. Because you have to remember, both him and his father. There's still countries that don't have it, too. They don't have it. He had spent 40 years under house arrest. Wow. So when he was able to come, he's like, oh my God, you guys have religious freedom? Yeah. This is where it's at. Yeah. So this, for him, was a symbol of how the roots can nourish, but the future is out. And so I say, just like his vision, we have that vision too. And when it rains, this whole tree turns into this beautiful, you can see a little bit of the bright green. But yeah, we get grass growing in. It turns into its own little ecosystem. That's awesome. So just like I said in ancient Egypt, how they had sacred menageries of animals that they considered to be sacred. Yes. We take it. Hi, Sydney. Hi, Sydney. You gonna dance? Sydney? His name is Sydney. Hi, Sydney. Hi. So, all of the birds that we have here are all rescues. Wow. But we get the ones that can't be fostered. So they're either been abused, and we know that they're all biters. So what we do is we provide them with a forever home. Because they all have, basically, when you get ones that can't be fostered, they've got something special upstairs. Pretty bird. Hello. Hello. Pretty bird. Pretty bird. How are you? Pretty bird. Pretty bird. Yeah, talker, aren't you? How are you? Yeah, how are you? So the one on top is an African parrot with the bright green tail. Yeah. And the reason he's flat is they don't fly a lot, they climb a lot. And they usually live in like 5 trees. But this guy is actually a mini military macaw. Military, huh? Yeah, he's from South He's from South America.
Wow.
And they're known to fly like 10 miles. That's their radius. So Chi-Chi was an original rescue. The people who owned her were running a cockfighting ring.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, so we got, so what happened was, is I got a phone call one week on a Tuesday, and they're like, hey, we have a parrot. I'm like, okay, well, I don't take them in. You gotta go talk to our parrot rescue partners.
Right.
Because if they could be fostered, you know, don't end up with us.
Right.
And what happened was, is that I said, go by Friday. So what happened was, they bring them here on a Friday with her cage.
Oh, wow.
And they just dumped her off. But she's actually a good girl.
Likes attention.
Yep, and she did get out once because somebody tried to play with her. And I had to relock the cage. But no, she's a sweetheart, and she's been a good girl, and she's one of our rescue babies. So this is actually Blanca.
She has shining stars, huh?
Oh, she is. So the funny thing of Blanca is, so Blanca doesn't fly.
Okay.
Blanca was raised with a herd of 7 Chihuahuas. And the reason we got her is because her family had had a baby, and it was either get rid of the baby or the bird. So they got rid of Blanca. So when we got Blanca, she didn't know how to be a bird. She still doesn't. She plucks herself like Chihuahuas do. She shivers. She doesn't fly. And but she's a chewer, so which is why she chews up everything. But then the next week, someone brought us our lovely, guess what? Harpo.
Harpo?
Yep. And no, Blanca, Blanca. So we got him because he had bitten somebody. So we said, oh, we'll put them together. Maybe he can teach her how to be a bird. No, she sits on him like a Chihuahua does.
Really?
And she's taught him how to pluck.
Really?
Yes. So he still flies, but see how he plucks?
Yeah.
She's taught him how to do that. Oh yeah.
This
Have
is
you been
the
naughty?
part you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's because Chihuahuas chew themselves for fleas.
Yeah.
So she learned all sorts of bad habits that we've never broken her out of. No. Yes,
Not
yes,
a talker or yes or no?
Oh, she's a squawker.
So this is your white peacock?
This is our white peacock. So we actually used to have him over there, but then when I got all these other peahens from the fires, I was like, I put him over here, and we got her in. Now she's a pie peacock, but she's mostly white. So I put them together thinking they'd have babies. No, she is in love with that black and white rooster.
Really?
Yes, that one that's right there.
Yeah.
He comes over here, and those two will spend all day squawking at each other. No, she has no interest in our beautiful white male.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Oh yeah, no. I've had no babies in the 4 years I put them together. They will roost at night, but she is in love with that bloody chicken.
What's the story of this white and black one over here?
So this chicken is it's a Polish chicken, but he won't stay with the Polish chicken because he's in love with my peahen. And when he gets, and so see how much damage they do? They root up everything. They break pots. I love the pieces.
Oh, and I see him. He's squawking.
But here's the thing. This guy right here, who is this Polish chicken, when it rains, he can't see because it gets wet like dreads. But what's really funny is even though he likes the peahen, he is in love with the bantam ladies, but they're 1/3 his size. So the bantam boys chase him off all the time.
Oh, that's funny. That's hilarious.
So this is Cat. He's our very good boy. Oh, he's being good because normally he does not like the camera.
Temple kitty.
You want to say hi? This is our temple kitty. He's a rescue. He's our little rescue. Yeah. He was a feral kitty that someone found, and they couldn't keep him, so they brought him to us on a day we were talking about the Egyptian cat got us lost. And he thinks he's a little lion.
I see that. Based on the yawn.
Yep. And he'll follow us. That's the other thing. He's very good. So,
okay, he's a follower.
So these are all Asian pheasants. Think of them as like the Asian version of quail, except for they're much prettier.
Wow, they're beautiful.
And we've got the golden ones. We've got the...
Yeah, they're really pretty.
Yeah, and the problem is that we only have one girl left. So I'm trying to see if I have her eggs in the incubator. And she's hiding over here. The girls are a little brown.
I see.
But once again, just like the peacocks, it's the boys who have all the color. Mm-hmm. But the boys are crazy. Well, hello! And that night, when they go off, they make this sound that's like it's loud and crazy.
So they scream at night.
They sometimes do.
Another temple?
Yeah, so actually this is very important. So remember how I told you that the Baha'is can't worship without a consecrated temple?
Yes.
So they have spiritual salons,
Okay.
but they can't actually do it without a temple. So this was built in time for the Bab when he was leaving.
Oh, okay.
So this was built in 1920.
Wow.
And this actually came out of a kit.
A kit?
Yes.
A temple kit?
No, so what happens is in the 1920s, 30s, they would give you house kits. So
Really?
you could build it yourself.
Wow.
Pre-made, pre-measured, and this was just a church kit, like a town hall kit.
That's amazing.
But of course, Lorian, when she comes here, puts all of that beautiful Egyptian facade that she made, that she got back.
Right. Is the stained glass hers?
Yes, so all the stained glass on the property is actually Lorian's. It's like sand painting. You take colored sand and then you melt it on a like bronze tile.
Right.
In those days, if you wanted to do stained glass, you would put color on the glass and then bake it.
Okay.
So it's the same technique.
Wow.
What this is, so you can see like the different textured of glass.
Yeah.
This is all of her baking it with the sand to get the color she wants.
Wow.
Well, now what's so amazing about this is these are all elevator doors, Art Deco elevator doors.
Oh, wow. I can see it now.
And they can actually move.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
They're still on rollers, huh?
Yeah. So she designed this so it can be open and closed.
Very nice.
These are all of her individual designs and they're gorgeous. And what's really interesting is this was a photo from 1920 from the original Baha'i temple.
Wow.
Yeah. Her Isis stained glass for the ladies' room.
Beautiful.
Right?
Yeah.
This is actually her enamel. So we try to use up all of her for all the light plates.
She made that too?
Yes, and if you feel it, you can actually feel the difference.
Oh yeah. It's like indentation.
Yeah, so basically that's all colored sand. So you put the sand on there, you have to make it perfect, and then you bake it.
Wow.
And then it turns into glass.
That's awesome.
And when she got here, some of the last ones she made were hers and his. And you can see that the his are a little bit more beaten up.
Yeah.
So this is our main temple. And we've kept this as original as we can, to the original 1920s. What's really fascinating is that if you turn around to that ceiling, there's a little corner ceiling, right? Over here, we've got that repaired like 2 years ago because both the front end and the back end, there's 100-year-old hives here. And 2 years ago, when it got really hot, that whole wood from that corner started leaking honey. Because it was melting because there's a tin roof.
Oh, I can see that, yeah.
So we had to actually get it fully repaired. We're still doing some more repairs on it because we didn't want to kill the bees.
Right.
So we had to come in from the inside, take down some of their honeycombs because it was literally melting into the ceiling.
Wow.
And twice a year when they wake up from hibernation, we get tons of bees in here. And actually you can see a little bit on the floor.
Oh, yeah.
But because this building has 200-year-old beehives in the walls, on both ends, which is very sacred.
I bet the honey is amazing.
Oh, it is. So, what we do in here is we do everything from plays. We have outside plays come in.
Oh, really?
That they do plays here. We do yoga, we do meditations.
Great.
But what's really fascinating is that, come on, cat, you can follow us, good boy. This is an altar that's been the same since Lorian got here. But the two treasures I kind of wanted to point out is that when different clergies pass, they leave us things. This was a treasure that was found by our priestess, Serene, who sadly passed during COVID. But she loved to collect anything with bast. So the lion head, she just got it because it was a Hollywood prop, but she didn't know until she started doing research. And you can tell that it's been through the wars because there's some pieces missing.
Yeah.
But if you feel it, this is all styrofoam. So this was actually built to last.
Oh, wow.
Right? So we've done our best to repair it, but this is literally, like I said, no one sits in it.
Yeah, it looks like it's like solid wood and probably fall apart if you sat in it, right?
So, but this is from the Boris Karloff movie.
That's pretty
Mummy.
cool.
And this other one over here that I kind of love to introduce to everybody. This is a reproduction from the King Tut. This is actually a throne chair that they found in King Tut's tomb.
Wow.
And they did a reproduction back in the 70s. And this is what it is. It's this beautiful piece.
It's got a woven basket weave
Yeah.
seat in it. And that's beautiful. And I like the chest too.
Oh, so that chest also came from the Boris Karloff movie.
Really?
Yes, but she got this from another Hollywood auction, but it was much better maintained. Someone had actually done repairs on it and kept it up.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So do you come here every morning and do service?
We use this weekly on Sundays for our sacred salons. We use this during our twice yearly. We have in first weekend of May by Beltane. We have a women's spirituality conference where we invite people from all over the world to participate.
Wow.
It's a 5-day conference.
Awesome.
25 speakers over 5 days, meals and everything.
Wow.
But we use that for in here, but then also in October, we invite all of our clergy throughout the United States to come here and do new ordinations. And then we have a 4-day conference of just Isian and Egyptian influence.
Wow.
Like most things Egyptian, or in most retreat centers, we have a pool. Because in ancient Egypt, every temple, they believed that water was the vessel through which life was created.
Okay. That makes sense.
So literally,
true.
Every temple you had this sacred pool. And right now, this is our pool. And there's a funny story about this. So when Lorian first got the property, between it was the Baha'i temple and when Lorian got it in 77, 78, this was a pot growing facility called Icelandia, run by Dennis Perone, who was Harvey Milk's lover.
If only he knew that it would be legal to do now.
Right. So here's the whole thing. When Lorian got it, she had a bunch of, because it took about 1.5 years to finish escrow in those days.
Yeah.
So she had a bunch of hippie leftovers. And when she got here, they didn't want to do any work. So her partner, Dion, took a starter pistol, I'm not joking, shot it off.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, well, listen. So she had them dig the first 3 feet of the pool before she brought in the heavy earth things.
Wow.
And this is we have a saltwater pool.
And you got a hot tub over there, jacuzzi. Yep. Very nice. It's salt water.
It is salt, both of them are saltwater, yep. Which is why you get this beautiful blue color, because it's the salt.
And I didn't want to pass over the fact you mentioned Harvey Milk's lover.
So Harvey Milk did his soft launch campaign here.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Before he ran, because Dennis Perone owned this. And Dennis Perone owned this from 74 through 77. And for the first 1.5 years, through like 74 through 75, this was a pot growing facility called Icelandia. And just like the Dallas Buyers Club movie, Dennis took all the pot that he grew on the 10 acres here and took it to cancer patients in San Francisco, which is why later in his life, he actually helped write the compassionate use for medical marijuana.
Okay. But he had to be hyper paranoid. That was during the Reagan eras, right?
Oh, but it gets even crazier. And Dennis actually had a pot-infused restaurant in the city. So all the pot would...
Secretly, obviously, right?
Well, it was an open restaurant, but it was kind of an open secret that it was a pot restaurant.
Yeah.
But all the pot would go here to there.
Wow.
As restaurant supplies, and then he would give it out to all the cancer patients. But when Harvey Milk got shot by an undercover police officer, for the Twinkie defense, he ate too many Twinkies, and so his blood sugar made him shoot Harvey. I'm not joking.
No, I know. I know the story.
But shortly after, Dennis got a phone call from the district attorney's office in San Francisco, said that the Drug Enforcement Administration is coming after you, not because pot was technically illegal, but because he wasn't paying taxes on it, because it was all cash business.
Oh, wow.
So he gave all of this and all of his other property to friends so they couldn't take it away. But within 6 months after Harvey Milk dying, Dennis got shot by an undercover Drug Enforcement Administrator and ended up in the hospital for a couple of months because the wound went septic.
Wow.
And this place ended up with a woman called Alexis Muir. And Alexis Muir is John Muir's grandson, Alex, who became his niece, Alexis. She is known as the first head-to-toe post-op tranny done in California.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
And her big claims to fame is that she opened up the first openly gay bar in the world called The Stud in San Francisco.
I've been there.
Okay, so she opened that up.
Yeah.
But when she got this place, she turned it into basically a gay resort.
Okay.
And the locals didn't know what to make of her. And her housekeeper at the time accused her. It's in the papers, I'm not joking. It was in the local Geyserville Gazette.
So this is early 70s?
Mid-70s.
Okay.
The housekeeper said, "Oh, you got me pregnant." And Alexis had to say in the paper, "There's nothing left down there." So in those days, they didn't know how transsexuals actually work with the surgeries.
Right.
So the housekeeper accused her of getting her pregnant, but Alexis was into men, and she didn't have a bit anymore.
Right.
So, but also, if you've ever watched Tales of the City with Armistead Moped,
I think
it's on
I have.
PBS and also on Netflix.
Okay.
There's an old tranny character called Mrs. Anna Magical, and that's based on Alexis Muir.
Wow.
So Alexis Muir is immortalized, and she's actually still alive to this day. And it's this crazy, crazy history. Oh, and one thing I forgot to tell you.
This property is just full of stories.
Well, I forgot to tell you, in our theater, because the pot was already here, that is where the Grateful Dead recorded Terrapin Stations.
Really?
Yes, so they did their sound recordings of Terrapin Stations and their other album that they premiered in '78 at the Pyramids of Giza. And how we know this is their, basically the band manager was Scully. His wife was called Nikki Scully. She was one of our first priestesses here, getting ordained.
Wow.
And Lorion had actually hand-fasted or married Jerry Garcia to his second wife, Caitlin of the Merry Pranksters, the whole LSD Timothy Leary crew. So when Nikki Scully was here a couple years ago, because Nikki Scully has now reinvented herself as this beautiful Egyptian alchemist. So we had her as one of our founding clergy come out and do a presentation in October.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I got all these stories about Timothy Leary.
Wow.
Because she was here. And she'd actually written poems from, and I guess Jerry Garcia loved Lorion so much that there's a song called The Veiled Prophet.
And that's about her?
That's about her.
Wow, that's awesome.
So
did the Moody Blues have anything to do with this property?
They might have actually been here.
You never know.
All the way through like the mid-'70s through the late '80s, this was the place for anyone who was artistic in San Francisco to come up and get away.
Andy Warhol's probably been here then.
And yeah.
You got an Andy story?
Oh, I have an Andy story because if you ever look up Andy's blue spotted cats, those are her ocelots.
Really?
So back in the late 50s, early 70s, through that time period, Lorion's first husband, Dion, was actually an indie filmmaker when that meant something. To be an indie filmmaker in those days was to really be a filmmaker.
Yeah.
And he was lovers or good friends with Andy Warhol.
Wow.
So Dion was openly bi. Lorion was what I call the most non-bohemian
right.
because she was a serial monogamist. But all the men she was with were much more, ooh, pretty.
Yeah.
But the whole thing with Andy is Andy would come to San Francisco and stay in one of her Victorians. And he loved Salvador Dali's pet ocelot. So he was like, Lorion, you have ocelots. So he would go and sneak into the cat house and then draw them. But in her diaries, one of the first times she mentions that, she goes, oh, fuck you, Andy, not again, off to UCSF. Because he was so allergic to the cats that he would have anaphylactic shock.
Oh my God.
So he would go, she would lock up the cats and he would go and find them, draw and sketch them and play with them. And then she would have to shove them in back of her station wagon and take them to UCSF, which was an hour away.
Wow.
So, the Andy stories are kind of crazy, but all of those early blue spotted cats are actually her ocelots.
Wow.
So this was the Baha'is, this was their married family downstairs and women's upstairs building. This was built in 1925.
Okay.
And once again, Lorion's beautiful stained glass that she kind of put in. But all of these rooms downstairs were single family dwellings.
Really?
Yep, so if we come over here, I'll show you 9. So they literally...
So each individual room had a family?
Yeah, so it'd be mom and dad and 2 kids in a teeny room like this.
Okay.
And this was like the 30s, 40s, and 50s. And what happened is when we entered the war in 1939, all the dads went off to war, all the moms went to factories. And so from like 1939 through 1946, this became a year-round boarding school. Well, after they came back from war, because the kids loved it, they actually turned this in the summer. This was a summer school. But then throughout the year, this was actually the first Baha'i seminary and temple outside Jerusalem.
Wow, and it was for 70 years, I read, right?
No, the Baha'is started gathering in this area in 1880.
Oh my God, so longer.
90 years, yeah. So this is a fascinating room because
it's pretty cool.
This room to the Baha'is was called the Room of Loftiness. And just like the Quakers gather in a circle, the Baha'is were practicing nonviolent communication before there was such a thing. They did not believe in having heated arguments. So you would go and disperse and breathe and cool off. And then you would come together, you would sit in a circle.
Okay.
And the room of loftiness was meant, okay, we've let our anger go, this is art and we're making ourselves lofty. right? So letting go of all the aggression. And you would come and you would actually discuss things in a manner that was non-aggressive. And so that's what this room was. And I just love it as the lounge. But now, remember I was telling you how L'Oreal had different houses? So in San Francisco on Isis Street, there's still a factory there.
Yeah.
And there's 4 Victorians, which also are a central courtyard. That was all of L'Oreal stuff.
Wow.
But this was her self-portrait. So in one house, she had the mammal house with the monkeys and the capybaras. I'm not joking. And the other house, she had her baby ocelots. And the other house, she had the reptile. So she had snakes, alligators, and turtles. And then she had the birdhouse with, I'm not joking, toucans and parrots.
Wow.
So when they outlawed all these endangered species that she had loved, she literally sold her enamel business just so that she could buy a sanctuary to take them with her. And that's how...
And Geyserville obviously didn't have those restrictions.
No, they didn't. But what's really interesting is that in '78, when she got here, there was use permits, but like 1 out of 1,000 people used them. You didn't really use them.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have to have one if you have a property. You have to have a use permit.
Right.
But she wrote one in '78 that had artists in residence, Airbnb, basically bed and breakfast, animals. She wrote that all in '78.
Wow.
So we are benefiting almost 50 years later from her forethought.
That's amazing.
Right?
Yeah.
And we keep musical instruments everywhere because this was something that L'Oreal loved. For her to be a priestess wasn't like, oh, I'm going to be a priest and hide.
Right.
There's an old Taoist adage that says it's easy to be a hermit on the mountain. It's hard to be a practitioner in the city. And that's true. For us, it's about self-realization.
Yeah.
Do you express your spirituality through art, through painting, through dance, through good service? And for us, it's all about how we can make humanity better. And that's why we have the animals, and that's also why we have the housing program here too.
Yeah, that's awesome.
For 45 bloody years.
Wow.
We take in people who are at need.
When you say you take in homeless, can they just walk into your driveway? There's got to be a vetting.
Yeah, well, no, so we have a 6-month waiting program.
Okay.
And it takes us about a month and a half to do all of our stuff because we have a therapist who does, psych screenings. Right. Basically, what we do is we take people who are transitioning out of homelessness.
Okay.
Because people don't realize that once you're homeless, you lose all of your ID cards, you lose all of your paper, you lose everything.
Yeah.
And to get back into that, you have to start over again.
Yeah.
So we're for up to 2 years. People can live on our property for up to 2 years. Oh. We provide internet, housing. We do a weekly big meal. But like I said, we do job training here. Okay. Because most places for transitional housing kick you out at 6 a.m. and you can't come back till 9. Right. So you're only there to sleep. But we actually provide the housing.
You must have a big waiting list for this place. Huh?
We don't actually. Really? We have like a couple people, but
because it's so far away, or
no? Because here's the thing: we've been privately funded for 45 years. Okay. All of the money from the retreat center goes to pay for the animals, the property taxes, PG&E, and our housing program. And we have up to 25 people here at any given one. Right now we're at 15, which is a good number. Mm-hmm. But during COVID for 3 years, because we were shut down, we were supporting 25 people here because we took in people during COVID because there was nowhere for them to go. So if people watching this video want to help you, how would they do that? They can donate either to Venmo at Isis Oasis. Okay. They can, on our website, isisoasissanctuary.org or templeofisis.org. Okay. They can we have tons of buttons everywhere. Okay. And I'll leave a link too in the description. But we also, besides just cash, we also say if you want to come up for a work weekend, we'll put you up. You can swim in the pool and do like 3 or 4 hours a day and just help with gardening, helping, because all of the buildings here are over 100 years old. And let me just tell you what, when you have a building that's old, it gets really challenging on the upkeep. Yeah. But, so the people who are here in our program, just to be clear, if they come out of homelessness, we take them in so that they can have, when they leave here, they get certificates for catering, animal husbandry, housekeeping, front of house service. Now, animal husbandry is another way of taking care of veterinarian? Or no. That's for all of our animals. They learn how to take care of the parrots, the emus, the servals, the snakes. Okay. I just never heard the word husbandry used that way. That's actually what it's called. So if you go to school and you don't want to be a veterinarian, but if you go to like farming school, animal husbandry. Oh, okay. Okay. I learned something new. But the other way is if you're down on your luck, like you're going through cancer treatments, we take in people like that too, just to provide them with housing. Yeah. But the one thing that we don't do, just to be very clear, is you got to be sober. Of course. And you've got to get all of your court cases taken care of because we are not a rehab. Oh, by the way, this is the upstairs. So remember I said families downstairs?
Yeah.
Mom and dad and kids?
Yeah.
Well, just to make you giggle, the men's dorm was actually over 2 hills that way.
Oh, they had to keep them away.
Right, but this was for the
from the temptations.
Right. This is single ladies. So this would be the single lady dorms.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
This is big.
Yeah. So this side is called the Queen's Loft.
Queen's Loft. All right.
And this is the floor is original to the Baha'is. We just maintain it.
So you can accommodate a lot of people here.
Yeah, we have on 10 acres, we have 7 buildings with 68 beds.
Wow.
And this is the Pharaoh's chamber. This is, so we kind of keep them separate. We don't, if they want the whole space, we do rent it together, but then we keep it a little bit separate too.
Awesome.
And this is after a busy weekend, so do forgive us.
I'm not. It looks fine to me.
Yeah, and so originally these walls were white, and I hate white walls.
Yeah.
But people don't realize that the ancient Egyptians used color.
Oh, yeah.
So all of these saffron kind of yellow,
yeah,
I painted.
Nice. You really hated those white walls, huh? So people can rent this space?
Yeah, so basically on Airbnb, if you want to retreat here, you can either rent this building or Stagecoach. We have many different options.
Oh, wow.
Or if you just want to visit, we have, like I said, we have the single rooms downstairs. This is a big open space, so if you have, a traveling group of yoga,
yeah,
you can rent out up here, and then our temple. Right. The last enamel pieces that she made.
Oh, yeah.
But you can actually feel the sand as it baked. You can actually feel the individual grooves. This is her as a priestess of Isis. But if she couldn't sell this, because this would be what they call a second, because there's a big air pocket that actually, and this is what would happen though with the enamel, because it's like glass. As it bakes, it can bubble.
Yeah.
So this is her, and this was her love that she did, but she couldn't sell it because that's a second.
So you believe in reincarnation, I imagine?
We do. So
what do you communicate with her?
Here's a little unicorn that she made.
Nice.
And this other one. So the answer to your question is we celebrate her birthday, which is this Friday.
Oh, wow.
And we celebrate her death day.
Okay.
And we do that just to kind of help remember where we came from.
Right.
Now, I've had many people throughout the years going, oh, Florian's talked to me. And, I don't discount having divine inspiration.
Right.
Some things people say, she says, I'm like, that's not Florian.
Yeah.
But you don't want to tell someone that, because if they're really feeling that they've had this divine connection, who am I to judge them?
Yeah. Have you ever sensed a presence in here? Have you sensed her?
Oh yeah, so one of the things about Lorian is that when she was the Harry Potter kid, right, living underneath the staircase, she found a butterfly cocoon that she kept alive. Oh, and nice. She really, so for her, moths and butterflies were really big. And so there are certain times of years that we get this moth called the deadhead moth. Yeah. I know, deadhead. And it's weird because sometimes there'll be a lot of them just releasing, and you'll see them. Yeah. But I always get them when I'm like doing laundry or cleaning. And I know that for her, for being here for 35 years, basically running it herself, you do everything from fixing light bulbs to doing toilets. And so there are moments where these moths just appear and I'm like, I'm so frustrated because I'm having to do it. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, wait, Lorian was here doing it. Yeah. This is okay, I can deal with this. Yeah. I can actually, and those are the sorts of things I get. It's funny, the Dalai Lama has a really great thought about reincarnation. Yes. He says that we're the flame and our body's the candle. So as it burns down, everything that's us gets burned away, right? Mm-hmm. And then we go on, our flame goes on to the next body. Mm. But if you look at astrophysics, right? Mm-hmm. Energy is neither created nor destroyed. Right. So we are reincarnated. Yeah, everything's energy. We are recycled. Yeah. So when we die, all of our bioelectrical impulses go out to the universe. Right. So if you think about it, reincarnation is just a state of the universe keeps recycling. Yeah. And that's what I deeply believe, is that we are continually being recycled. We are continually being touched. We are continually awakening. And the other thing is too, we like to think of ourselves as just matter, right? But E equals mc squared. So energy equals matter concentrated. Cubed. So that means that we are literally just condensed energy.
Well, and there's a lot of gaps between that matter too.
Right, that
holds
is
the
true.
energy.
But we're all energy, so that when we die, if we're not being destroyed or created, we're just continually recycled.
I have a quick butterfly story. When I was a little kid, I was obsessed with caterpillars. So I don't know, maybe it's a tie into her or something, but I would collect them and everything. And one day I found a monarch one, and I brought it to school. I was so excited. And I had a little container with a magnifying glass, right? And the teacher said, oh, we should see if it'll cocoon. And it did. And then, like, this is like 3rd grade.
Yeah.
I was like a little kid. But I still have a vivid memory of the day we all went out to the playground, and it became a butterfly overnight, and we let it go free.
You know, and so there's something about that. So monarchs are a crazy species because they are the only insect species that we know immigrates. And how it does it from North America through Central America, it has 7 stops it makes, and those are each 7 generations.
Well, I know one's down in Big Sur, right?
Right, but it's a life cycle is 1 stop to 1 stop to 1 stop. So over 7 generations, it goes back to Mexico,
the whole,
and then it comes back. And you were really blessed because that was right before they started kind of having their decline. So you were really blessed. I just want to tell you. Like,
I don't know if hippos have anything to do, because I was obsessed with hippos too as a kid.
So hippos. Well, hippos.
What are you going to tell me about hippos?
There's 2 things. There's an Egyptian mother goddess called Tower.
Okay.
And she usually standing up with big hippo boobies.
Yeah. Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So if you watch, if you watch Moon Knight on Disney Plus, you'll see Towert.
We have it. Yeah.
Okay, so you see Towert, and she's like, "Oh, I have people. Let me read my scroll." So she was not only was she Egyptian mother goddess, but she was the protector of the living and the dead. She's the kind of Anubis is the guide of the souls, but she's like the one who helps you transition. Right? Pack your bags. Here you go.
Yeah.
So that's really powerful.
Yeah, it was funny because there used to be a restaurant called the Hungry Hippo in San Francisco, and I went there on my birthday.
Like
I
the game.
collected stuffed animal hippos, all when I was like 7 or 8.
Well, that's very auspicious.
Yeah, interesting.
This is our great Isis sign that Lorion made.
I love that.
And there are so these are our special needs parrots over here. Laura, the blue and gold, is like in her 40s or 50s, and Emerald is her new boy toy, but he's very protective. It's okay, Emerald.
I see that.
It's okay, Cheeky. Ooh, it's okay, baby. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. I know. But they're my little special ed birdies. Yes, you are.
Well, why do you call them special ed birdies? They need special attention?
Yeah, because Emerald, once again, came from a breeder who was locked in a cage by himself, and he wasn't breeding because birds need to see each other doing it before they do it. And what's funny is we had him in an enclosure next to Laura, and they bonded instantly.
Oh, wow.
And like I said, she's in her 50s. She's an old lady. But he is under... Yeah, you're 10. I know. But why Laura is over here is Laura, when they're older, when birds lay eggs, it leaches all of the protein out of their body.
Oh, okay.
And they can actually have seizures.
Oh.
And we didn't know that Laura had laid 3 eggs in a row, and usually macaw nests are like 1 or 2.
Yeah.
So she leached herself. So we had to take her to the vet, and it was a protein deficiency. So now she's over here. She's kind of off exhibit where she can just chill out.
Yeah.
And she has her little boyfriend Emerald, who's her little bodyguard.
Okay.
Hey everybody, welcome to our Wednesday Noon Right and Healing Circle. We've got a special guest today who's actually doing a YouTube video on our sanctuary. So excuse that we're a little late. Feel free to say hello.
Hi.
So yeah, we're just running a little late today, but thank you for being with us. It's a warm, sunny day today. But we're gonna go ahead and get started. So I'm gonna ring the bells. And for those of you who don't know, basically ringing the bells is an ancient tradition, even before Christianity, to let people know that your temple is in service. Okay, we're going to go again and get started because the Divine Mother says, come as you are. So it doesn't matter if you have incense, it doesn't matter if you have candles, as long as you have a sincere expression from your heart, you are welcome. So I'm going to say the awakening prayer, which is not on there.
Okay.
This is a prayer that the ancient Egyptians would say at sunrise, and you can say it for any deity. So if you're online or at home and you want to see it, it's on Temple of Isis under our rituals. You can see our awakening prayer. Awake, awake, awake in peace, Lady of peace. Rise thou in peace, rise thou in beauty. Heaven is in peace, earth is in peace. O goddess, daughter of Nuit, daughter of Geb, beloved of Osiris, mother of Horus, goddess rich in names, all praise to you, all praise to you, I adore you, Lady Isis, Lady Isis. And what that is when you say awakening to the divine, you're focusing your heart and you're awakening in your heart.
Okay.
And you can say it to anything, because when you say daughter of Nuit, that's the daughter of the sky. You can say again, it's the daughter of the earth. So it can become an interfaith prayer as well.
Okay.
But we're going to go ahead and get started with our noon ray. Divine Isis, goddess of 10,000 names, I invoke your grace. Come to our temple, O goddess, dwell in our shrine. Make our hearts your altars and our hearts your home. Bring vision and healing to those who use this shrine. Give us wisdom and unveil the truth. And with thy feathery wings protect us. Breathe into us the breath of life and health and strength. And now we're going to go ahead and honor the direction. Actually, we're going to sing the first song, which is our noontime song. And the opening and closing prayer of this ceremony, for those of you who don't know, were written by Lady Olivia Robertson, who is the founder of the Fellowship of Isis, right here. It is noon, let us celebrate the moon, let us celebrate the stars, no matter where they are. It is noon, let us celebrate the sun that shines on everyone. Let us celebrate our day as we go upon our way. It is noon, it is noon, it is noon. So, now we've awakened. So Nefertum, when the Egyptians, when they talk about the sun god Ra, they talk about him as Aten, the unseen sun at midnight, Khepra, who is the one who is the sun during the day. So they take the imagery of the sun as it rises and as it sets. There's different divine personifications. And Nefertum is the child of Sekhmet. But I love him because he's also the god of perfumes. And also, there's a very interesting title of him in the Tomb of the Brothers, where he's the god of homosexual love. Just like in ancient Egyptian things, sometimes Bast is just the daughter of Isis. Depending on which nome and which temple you're at, we like to put everything into a linear, but according to Plutarch, Nefertum is the child of Sekhmet. But yes, Linda's correct. It depends on who you're talking to and what temple they're from, which makes it really confusing. Okay, now we're going to honor the directions, and we're starting in the east. Okay, we're going to start in the east. Everybody with us? In the east. Let us honor the east, element of air with the winds ever blowing. Let us honor the south, element of fire with the flames ever glowing. Let us honor the west, element of water with the rivers ever flowing. Let us honor the north, element of earth with the seeds forever growing. And we honor the spirits above and below with the wisdom ever knowing. And we honor our bodies both without and within with the love forever showing. And we're going to say our closing prayer before we get to do our healing circle. for we come into this world with all these gifts and more, our very own special essence. Let us thank the goddess for that which she bestows. Let us go forth refreshed and renewed with the dedication to preserve and to protect all life, for we are all children of Isis, the great mother goddess. When we chant Nehis Nabet Aset, and we do that, it's kind of in my interfaith chanting for different deities. So I've been doing that Egyptian chanting for over 2 years now, maybe longer, with the Nehis Nabet Aset. And what's so funny is that about 1.5 years ago, when they were filming the Disney Plus series Moon Knight, my friend who's a writer-producer on it said, I got you, you're in it. I'm like, I wasn't in the series, what are you talking about? But if you watch it towards the last 4 episodes, you will actually hear the avatars of the divine chanting Nehis Nebet Aset or Nehis Nebet Osoru because it goes, Nehis just means awaken. Nebet means lady, and then you say the Egyptian name. So they were using my chanting to awaken all of the deities in like 4 episodes. So I just have to get that claim to fame because me chanting on Facebook one day inspired him to go, oh, I like this.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna have to watch that now.
Right, but I just want to show that. So if you watch Disney Plus on Moon Knight, the last 4 episodes, when the avatars come embodied, they say, Nehis Nabet Anubis, Nehis Nabet Hathor. You'll see them and they're based on my chanting. Let's begin with a quick prayer before we go into our healing request. Oh, Isis Panacea, you are the all-healing mother. Just like the panacea is the all-healing for our soul, our body, our hearts, and our minds, we invoke you, Isis Panacea, to come down and provide healing for both those who were spoken their prayers and for the unspoken prayers, the agonies of the human heart, which we are going through but we don't speak. Because we're afraid, we're frustrated, we're alone, we're ashamed. Be here, Isis Panacea. We invoke your grace. Please heal all those who need it. We're going to read our 42 ideals. Thank you, Diane. We're going to read today, and I think number 23 is perfect. It is, I communicate with compassion. I communicate with compassion. I communicate with compassion. I communicate with compassion. And for those of you who don't know, Lorion wrote this from the negative confessions to the ideals. So these are actually 42 ideals that we can live by. So Lorion says, compassion is a word equated to caring. It shows that you are concerned with the fate of another, and you are able to speak in a manner that shows a deep understanding of any situation. Your intentions are to offer compassion in any conversation you may be engaged in. There are many instances where you can speak otherwise. People can be very annoying and often they can be downright rude and insulting. Still, you can dialogue with them in a compassionate way, and this can change the entire dynamic of the conversation. You can be the catalyst for creating a more compassionate form of communication. The word compassion is a cornerstone in most religions and holds an importance in the Asian concepts as well. Remember, as you go about your day and see situations that need to be addressed, look at the best way to approach the issue and always use the way of compassion. So today we're going to end with this prayer, which is a beautiful ancient Isean prayer. Divine Isis, you who are the breaker of the chains of sorrow, I ask that you heal through me, you heal for me, you heal me, and that you heal through me. For as you will, so mote it be. May we all go forth refreshed and renewed with the dedication to preserve and protect all life, for we are all her children. Blessings. Thank you for being here, everyone. Okay, so these statues, all of them, there was an Indian store in Windsor by the movie theater. There was like an Indian food restaurant, and they sold it, and it became Sikhs, and Sikhs don't believe in other deities.
Okay.
So they said, I came in like, oh my gosh, I love these statues. Like, oh, do you want them?
Huh.
I got them for such a good price.
That's awesome.
I won't even complain.
Yeah.
But I tried to buy their Ganesh, and they're like, no, we keep Ganeshi.
Oh,
so
wow.
even though they're Sikhs,
right.
They're like, no, we keep Ganeshi.
Yeah.
This is a shrine we made for the Baha'is. One of our beautiful priestesses came here and actually built everything here.
Yeah.
And this is to celebrate that the Baha'is were here for over 100 years. And this is kind of like a continuation, because this globe is actually one of Lorient's early stained glass pieces.
Oh, wow.
So we put it in kind of the star of the Baha'i faith. And the Baha'is are, what's really fascinating about them is that they believe everybody from Buddha, Zoroaster, Jesus, Muhammad are all prophets of God. And they all teach nonviolence. And so the Baha'is believe in nonviolence as part of their root and parcel of their faith. And we are, because of them, we are the oldest spiritual sanctuary outside the California missions.
Wow.
Because the Baha'is started getting here in 1880.
Wow. Do you do any ceremonies here?
We do, actually. So what we do here is what's really funny is we actually have people now in their 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
Baha'is who came here during the summer schools.
Oh, wow.
They came here, so they come in and they want to show their kids.
Yeah.
Because one of the big things that the Baha'is did is that every year from when the Bab got here in 1915 through 1974 when they left, they had the friendship dinner. And they had 150 acres. They had all the Baha'is from Mexico all the way to Canada come here on the West Coast.
Wow.
And they would have anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 people for a weekend doing the friendship dinner, which was in honor
That's
of the
a lot of
Bab
people.
being actually, yeah, it was the largest gathering for a while on the West Coast.
Wow.
And what we do is, so when we have the Baha'is come here, we offer this as a memorial, so they can actually just come and sit.
Oh, nice.
And just be. This is kind of like their little meditation. And we need to put new stumps. But no, this is kind of their place where they can just meditate, because the Baha'is, one of the things that they believe in, which I'll show you, is that they plant orchards and gardens because they believe that working with nature brings them closer to God. This is the Hobbit and the Ginger Hut. These were built by Miguel.
Oh, okay. The
Yes.
video.
Yes. So what he did was these were inspired by a gingerbread for the witch and the Hobbit.
Wow.
And it's a little messy because it hasn't been cleaned yet.
Yep.
But,
Oh, it's cool in here.
right, so this is all adobe, but all the stained glass you see is all stained glass that Lorient made. Like there's a swan
Oh,
right
wow.
there. So he basically took all of the old stained glass,
That's really cool too.
right, and then put it in here.
It's very cool in here. I'm
Yeah.
surprised on that. So this is all her stained glass work.
This is all
That's
her
great.
stained glass.
Amazing. And this is part of the Airbnb experience?
Yep, they can, yep. And normally this would be much more gardening, but we're actually rebuilding this area, so we're gonna have gardens up here.
So you Lord of the Rings fans, this is where you should stay.
And if you don't want to fly to New Zealand.
Yes.
And for those of you who like, you know, candy, this is our gingerbread.
It's very Disney-esque.
It is. And it stays very cool
Oh, wow,
throughout the
yes.
summer, yeah. And once
Another
it,
stained glass here.
yep, so this is Kepra we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
And this is another one, but unfortunately we actually have to go in here and be very careful because people like to pick at them.
Mm.
So I have to come in here and fix it.
Yeah. Well,
But yeah, no, this is her. This is our lovely gingerbread,
awesome.
right?
I love it. And it's so cool in here too.
Yeah, it's the adobe, concrete adobe. If you ever work with anybody who actually wants to do stuff, make them do concrete adobe.
Okay.
Just as a word of warning, because if you use just normal concrete, it will crack and chip.
I see.
Yeah, so what we're walking up to right now is the remains of the Baha'i Peace Orchard. Basically what this is that, remember how I said the Baha'is were pacifists?
Yeah.
And in World War I and World War II, you were conscripted.
Mhm.
And if they didn't have conscious objectors. That wasn't until the Vietnam War. So if you were literally a pacifist, they would put you on the front lines. So it was a guaranteed death sentence because they
Oh,
said that you were
lovely.
cowards. So remember, this all used to be a flat orchard for the Baha'is. But when the freeway came through in '74, they literally had to build a hill. And the thing that really pissed the Baha'is off is that they destroyed their peace grove.
Yeah, I bet.
So what happened was the Baha'is had 5 orchards, 5 acres of orchards
yeah.
because every time one of the men died in World War I or II, they planted a tree from Luther Burbank with the prayer that as these fruit trees blossomed, may there never be a war again.
Nice.
So it was their offering to God. But the freeway came through and literally destroyed all 5 acres of their peace grove. And all that we have left are these Luther Burbank originals. So we have a Luther Burbank apple, persimmons.
Well, the persimmons is quite happy, huh?
Oh, it is. And that's a pear tree right there.
Wow.
Yeah, and we have to actually cut down some of the pine trees that have grown up so that they can get some more sunlight.
Do they bear fruit?
They do, actually.
Oh, okay.
Every year we get enough persimmons to literally, like, it takes me probably 3 days to process all the persimmons in a dryer.
Yeah.
This is our Cabernet cabin. And this was actually built in 1935 as a retirement cottage for Mrs. Bosch, because Mrs. Bosch was like 20 years younger than John Bosch.
Yes.
So after he passed, the Baha'is built her this. And what I just recently learned is this is actually built in a Japanese style.
Oh, really?
This is apparently this type of house is a Japanese house from the 1930s.
Huh.
And the guy that got to build it was a Japanese carpenter who was local. So this is if you go to Japan and you see houses from the 30s, it might look like this because this was the Japanese style.
Huh.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Found that out.
It's got nice character to it.
Right? It's very, very sweet. It's beautiful. It has its own hot tub and everything. But this is, if you see all the painting, I painted it all myself.
Oh, really?
But I have to redo the ceiling because when I did the ceiling, they got white paint.
That's what painter's tape's for.
I had painter's tape, so I was being rushed.
I hate painting.
I had like 3 days to do a whole house.
When I was a young lad out on my own, I used to paint. And I painted for this crazy lady in Tiburon.
Yep.
And she'd have dinner parties once a month, and instead of like cleaning the walls or something, she would have me come and repaint her entire living room once a month.
Oh God! And that just the smell alone.
Yeah, she was in that job because she was very wealthy and she had like Picasso ceramic.
Yep.
And very valuable ancient vases and vases all over her house, and never locked the front door.
Of course not. Because in those days you could get away with it.
Yeah, but my God.
Okay, so this is another persimmon tree, but also we have a fig tree too. So these are part of the Peace Grove.
Yeah.
And this was a fig tree planted by Luther Burbank.
Wow.
So all of the fruit trees that we have on the property are from Luther Burbank's thing.
I can see why you feel this is sacred ground, because it really is.
So this house, which is so cool, we can walk through. Okay, so every spring right around Beltane, all of our camellias bloom.
Oh, wow.
And I literally get like 7 pounds of camellia blossoms.
Wow.
But the reason I love this house is because this was the original 1860 stagecoach Victorian for Geyserville.
Really?
So what you're actually seeing right now is technically the back of the house. It's the front of the house now, but technically it's the back of the house.
I love the doorknob too.
Oh, and it's locked. I'll have to go through the back to let you in. But, so this would have been where the servants would like do their stuff.
Yeah.
You would have the kitchen here. So this is technically, it's the front now, but it's the back then.
You can tell it's old because the glass is all wavy.
Right.
Original glass.
This is from the 1860s, 1870s, and we know this was here. So when we walk through over here, which is so, okay, this house, when it was built, they didn't tax you per square foot, they taxed you by room. So none of the houses from before 1880 have closets because they would charge you for it.
Oh, wow.
And when we go in the house, when I open it up, you can see what I'm talking about. But what's so crazy is that this downstairs, which was Lorion's art studio when she was here, was actually where they fixed the stagecoach. What you're seeing is a bunch of stuff that people have just left us for the last couple of decades that just needs to go.
Right.
But over here, this was Lorion's stained glass.
Oh, wow.
And there's actually some stained glass that we're getting fixed right now.
Yeah, I see that. Awesome.
Right? And this is one of her mock-ups. So this is actually how she would design it.
Oh,
you
wow.
would cut out a piece of paper, then you would lay it flat.
Yeah.
Because between all of the glass, you actually have lead. So this is her peacock that she did. And this was her, so this is a Senate. This is called Jackals and Hounds in ancient Egyptian. And she actually made herself
Is
a
it a game? Or?
Yep.
Really?
It's like ancient Egyptian checkers.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we have all of this art, which we need to definitely hang.
Yeah, you got a lot.
People love to give us things.
On. Yeah.
And there's only so many of us.
Oh, you got emus.
Yeah, well, this is a special emu.
And why is he special?
Well, because she's hand-raised. Her name is Astara, which means a star. And we can actually go and pet her and hug her.
Really?
Yes. You gonna go in your spot, good girl? You gonna go in your spot for me? Come on.
Is that her hugging spot?
That's her hugging spot. Come on. Ooh, butt down. Ooh, yeah, there we go. So you can actually rub her, and she likes her little head being rubbed. Yeah, who's a good girl?
And what's her name?
Astara.
Astara. Hi.
Yeah.
Hi, Astara.
And she's hand-raised, and she loves her butt being scratched and her head being scratched. Yeah. No.
Wow.
And there's the cranes, who are endangered. Oh, good girl. Oh,
she's really in heaven, huh?
Yeah, no, she loves it.
How old is she?
She's only 4. Oh, good girl. Mm.
Are they normally this docile?
If they're hand-raised, they are.
Yeah.
But she was hand-raising, she was cuddled a lot. And she's about 60 pounds. And I've had 1 or 2 occasions where I've actually had to grab her and try to move her. And she broke my toe once. Not on purpose, but she just was freaked out because a dog got in here.
Oh, I can imagine.
So, but she's a good girl. Yeah,
awesome.
Okay. Come on, Estella, you can get back up. So these guys, these African crown cranes, they're about 6 or 7, and they're wonderful because they're a mated pair. They mate for life. But what's really fascinating is that the reason they're endangered is because, see all their little feathers?
Yeah.
Basically ascot. They were so popular from the 1890s onwards that they became endangered because all the British people in South Africa would hunt them for their feathers for ascot hats.
They're beautiful.
They are. And they've laid a couple of eggs and they're good, but we're not trying to breed them. But if they lay eggs, they go in the incubator. But they are just sweet birds. And their mating dance is hilarious.
Really?
8-foot wingspan of cha-cha-cha. You gonna do anything? You gonna do it? You gonna do something? You're like, no, it's hot. But we'll make ourselves look cute. See, we'll make a heart. This trumpeting that if she does it again, she has the same hollow breast point as a velociraptor. So she's a direct descendant from velociraptor. So that little bone that they show in the original Jurassic Park, she has the same hollow chamber and the same resonance. You hear her?
I thought it was a drum.
No, that's her. Her skin expands and hits it and pushes air through it. And she literally, when, like I said, Steven Spielberg is writing Jurassic Park, the first one, he actually lived on an emu farm for a month to see how they all worked.
Wow.
And that's where he learned that they were female dominant. So yeah, this is the direct descendant from a velociraptor. And if we turn over here, we can see the direct descendants of T-Rexes. Chickens share 85% of the DNA with the T-Rex.
They do?
Yes.
I never knew that. Wow.
Yes. And they love Istara because they think she's the bird goddess.
I bet. Hi.
This is Dee Tracy, who's our director.
Hello.
How are you?
Good.
I've had quite the tour, of course.
Yes, we're a fairly intense little location
Yes,
here.
you are. That's an understatement.
Yes. So we used to have a lot more cats before.
Yeah.
But Lorion, who was our founder, we actually have a really good track record because in the wild, servals will live to be about 10. In captivity, about 15.
Okay.
Maybe 18. All of our servals have lived to be almost 30.
Wow.
But the problem is that once they get past 7, every time they go to vet, it's like a $5,000 bill.
Yeah.
So
that's not good either.
No, it's not good. But so, like I said, when Lorion passed, we had a lot of her cats who were geriatric, and they all lived to be 28, 29. Actually, our ocelot, we probably had the oldest ocelot. We know that she was at least 35. She could have been older.
Wow.
Isis. Anyways, but this guy over here, his name is Suli, and he's one of our other rescues, and he's in his outdoor enclosure right now, just chilling off. But yeah, he was the runt of his litter, and with breeders who breed them, just like with dogs, if they're the runt, they may not survive.
Right.
So we got a phone call, and we took him in, and because he was the runt, he wasn't getting a lot of nutrition. So when the first 6 months we got him, he jumped and broke his leg.
Oh, wow.
And we, $7,000 later, because that's what we do when you take in cats and you're doing rehab and rescue. But now look how big he is. So this is the Goddess Gallery. And once again, Lorian painted the sign. So,
more awesome art.
Yeah, so basically all of these images are Lorian when she was in San Francisco. You can see all of her enamelware, which was noir enamel.
Yeah.
And some of her pieces are actually right now in the Smithsonian Archives in Berkeley.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because she was the leading enamel artist for the California Arts and Crafts Movement.
That's awesome.
And this is just her, all of her ocelots, like I said about the Andy Warhol, you can see.
Yeah.
This is one of her ocelots right here.
Oh, beautiful.
And those are her enamels. So with the enamel stuff, the thing that made her a lot of money was, in those days, if you wanted the wall tile for your kitchen or lights plates, you would go to your local Ace. They would have her catalog, and you would pick pre-produced ones you wanted, or if you wanted custom order, you would call her. But she would make compacts. I mean, just
wow, that's awesome.
One of the things I wanted to point out is when we talk about Lorian, from the enamel to the stained glass.
Yeah.
This was actually the first piece that she made here.
Oh, wow.
And this was her piece, the sun and the moon enamel, and then she put the stained glass around it. Beautiful. So this was like a transitional piece.
It's beautiful. And then these were all from the 50s, you said?
Yeah, so all of these, the top ones are all from the 50s and 60s. This was after she went to the Art Institute in LA. And these are just other people's art that's in here.
Okay.
And then, like I said, her enamel and more photos.
Yeah.
But you'll be interested. So this is our shrine that we've made for her. But this was she stole this when she first moved to San Francisco. Yeah. Isis Street.
So, is it anywhere near Haight Ashbury? Or?
It is actually. It's about probably 5 or 6 miles.
It was in Soma. It's the south of Market.
Okay. Okay.
So she was on near Folsom, and Isis actually ran into Folsom.
Yeah.
So it was only 1 block long.
It still is. So this is her. We make an altar to her, and we have an altar to the founder of the fellowship. This is Olivia, who wrote the prayers that we were saying in Noonray.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and she was from Britain, and she had her Isis experience in 1974.
Well, that's when they founded the Fellowship of Isis. But she actually had the Call of Isis earlier.
But this is what happens. This is why you get people. And this, what we're seeing right here, is our Goddess Gallery.
Yeah, you got quite a bit.
So basically, there's a woman named Morning Glory Zell, who, if you know the term polyamory, she created.
Oh, really?
But her and her husband, Oberon, started a church called the Church of All Worlds, which is a big interfaith church. Okay. It was featured in A Stranger in a Strange Land by Robert Heinlein. Okay. But what's also interesting is that they published a counterculture magazine called The Green Egg, which is still running. Really? It's been since the 70s. And in that, they would publish first-time writers, and just like, metaphysical but also scientific stuff. Robert Heinlein was in there. Yeah. But one of the people that they published was Margaret Atwood. So, this Goddess collection is a lifelong project of Morning Glory Zell, when she went around the world and actually collected replicas of all the different goddesses, and she labeled them in her own categories. And what she would do is, she would have teas with the goddesses. So she would say, oh, come to my house on Friday, pick out a goddess, and you would do a weekend workshop, which you would have tea and dreaming incubation, and you would do a retreat with all of these different goddesses.
Oh, that's awesome.
But what's crazy is that after Morning Glory passed, and she passed around the same time as Lorian, but what happened is that when she passed, all of her stuff got put into storage. And it sat there for like 6 years. Oh. And Oberon, at the end of it, wasn't paying the bill. It was just a lot to handle. He just lost his wife. Yeah. But what was so fascinating was that at the same time period, a show called The Handmaid's Tale came out. Yeah. And in the thing, they use a symbol called the Astara, which is on the red trucks that would take away the women, the bad trucks.
Yes.
And that symbol, Morning Glory had actually created as a women's libertation symbol.
Oh, wow.
So they took this beautiful symbol of the star goddess
it.
and turned it into a repressive symbol. And because of that, Oberon called them and said, what the fuck's going on? But they kept telling people, don't deal with Oberon, he's an old hippie. I'm not joking.
Oh, I believe that.
So finally, all the women that Morning Glory had taught throughout the years and her colleagues reached out to, guess what? Margaret Atwood. And Margaret was like, look, I sold the rights to the show long ago. I go in there, for some stuff. I said, I'll raise it, but no promises.
Right.
And that's what she told us.
Right.
But what she went there was, on the day of the second season writer's room, she actually goes in there, she takes her purse and goes, here's my checkbook. I am writing a check to save the goddesses. I'm going to make this right. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
And she actually got the executive producer of The Handmaid's Tale, had these all individually wrapped.
Wow.
Had them put on all the cases and brought them up to us.
That's awesome.
So they saved the back thing. So Margaret paid off the back storage and gave us like a grant. And then the head producer, I think his name is Brad, actually paid for the goddesses to be brought here. And then Oberon got a deal because they kept using the symbol without permission. It's a trademark symbol. So she made this right, and it's only happened because Margaret had actually known Morning Glory back in the day. And here's a really crazy thing. There is a women's shelter in Toronto, an abusive women's shelter,
Yep.
where they would use the Astara in their awards. So as a woman, graduated their program and went back into the world, they would give her the Astara symbol on her graduation thing.
Oh, wow.
But even more random than that, guess who helped sponsor that women's shelter? Margaret Atwood.
Wow.
And what's really even weirder is in the second season, when they go away from the red trucks, and they start showing the Astara symbol, they start talking about the women's shelter. So before Gillian got established, they talked about the women's shelter. So they brought it back to a women's liberation because the main character's mom was a women's rights activist. So I always tell everybody that we are sponsored by Margaret Atwood because she saved the goddesses. And without
what
her,
a collection too.
Right? And like I said, this is 45 years worth of someone's life that they went around the world and collected all the replicas of the Divine Mother.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And there's, like I said, there's more over here.
There's more.
Yeah. This is the gods.
Well, as our founder said, God the Father has gotten plenty of publicity, and it's time for the goddess to have her own PR.
So what's so funny is that one of the first statues, according to Morning Glory's student who actually helped archive all of this, Kristen, one of the first statues that actually helped inspire this whole collection was an Isis statue that Morning Glory got when she was ordained by our founder, Lorion. Because the first group of founders was Morning Glory, her husband Oberon, our parish nurse right now, Evelyn Powell, Marky, Nikki Scully. There was 8 of them.
Wow.
And they all got ordained, and the first goddess statue that got this collection going, or one of the first, was an Isis statue. Now, I don't know which Isis statue it is, but that is how this kind of got rocking and rolling.
That's amazing.
Right? So the Grateful Dead, I mean, this place is crazy. But just to kind of fin with a little fun note, is that, you think all this stuff was in the 80s. No. This place kept rocking and rolling. One of the people who actually still is a friend of the temple was a well-known artist named Shepard Fairey. And if you don't know who he is, he does the big giant obey signs, but he also did the presidential poster, Obama with Hope.
Okay.
So he did him. Shepard Fairey actually got married here and had his reception here. So he's actually still a friend of the temple.
Awesome. And
one of the other people who's kind of a friend of the temple that's somewhat well known, she's actually one of our clergy, is Normandy Ellis. And she wrote the Egyptian Book of Coming Forth by Day, which is the Egyptian Book of the Dead. But instead of doing it in like scholarly text, she wrote it back to the original, so it's all poetic prose.
Oh, wow.
So it's beautiful to read, and it's in the original chapters. So this is kind of an archive of all of the efforts that have kind of sprung up.
Yeah, it's overwhelming what you have here.
Yes.
Well, how long have you been here?
I've been operating it since the morning after Lady Lorraine passed
2014.
away, so that's been 10 years.
Wow.
But I've been deeply involved for much longer
83.
before that.
83, wow. So both of you reside here? And
Yes.
Okay.
We are the two anchorites, to use a Catholic term.
What a beautiful place to live.
I just say we're the spinning in the vortex.
Yeah.
It was a wonderful bubble during COVID. I mean, our environment was really lovely.
Yeah.
But,
We had 25 people here.
yeah,
In our housing program. That's what I was telling you. Like, we took people in because there was nowhere else for people to go.
Yeah.
One last thing I'm going to show you.
Of course.
Is we have a reptile house.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And we have everything from bearded dragons
Yeah.
to
some boas in
albino
there.
boa. So, okay. Once again, why people shouldn't have reptiles as pets. This is Shakti. She's
Yep.
9.5 feet.
It's a big one.
12 now?
She's to the 13 feet.
13 feet, okay. And she's what, 80, 90 pounds?
Not that heavy.
Okay, well, she's 13 feet, but what happens is when snakes get older, they get arthritis.
Oh, okay.
And somebody had her as a pet, and they were playing with her, and they bit her. And these guys are not biters because
Yeah.
they don't, but if they have arthritis, guess what? They're gonna bite. So we always tell people, you're gonna get snakes, and here she is. This is Auntie Shakti, yeah.
Not enough.
She's a very good girl. But once again, people shouldn't have snakes unless they're going to take care of them. And another key thing is, he's actually taking care of our iguana. You can buy iguanas at Petco that are 6 inches.
Yeah.
They
And
are
turn into that?
6 feet, yes.
You can grab one free afterward.
Well, that too. But they're huge. And, you know, they live for like 30, 40 years. And this is another one. So if you see all the names, it says Thora.
Yeah.
So we thought all of our snakes were actually boys, so she was Thor, but then we discovered that most of them are girls, so she became Thora.
Okay.
But as I call her, she's our selfie snake, so we can actually put her on someone's head and she'll make a crown out of it. I'm
Oh,
not
wow.
joking yet, no, she's
I believe it.
delightful. And just met someone once again, Miss Sexy Things. His name is Queenie, but he's a boy. Yeah. So, and what we also have here is
Yeah,
we have
insect-
stick bugs.
Oh, wow.
So stick bugs
Yeah, those things are cool.
so they don't have a gender. They produce by parthenogenesis. And they're this big, but when they're little babies, they're like 1 centimeter big, and we have like 100 of them.
Big.
That are in there now, or?
No. We
Okay.
but we breed them for the local elementary schools.
And that iguana is Prince, huh?
Yes. And until recently, he was not liking boys, but now he's fine with men. But yeah, this is our vivarium, and once again, they had snakes in ancient Egypt. So we do this as a labor of love.
Amazing.
And all of our boas are rescues.
Have a good day. Bambi and Blackjack.
And they are rescues. They are trained now to come up to us because of fire, so we bring them treats. So we give them alpaca candy, so they actually come up here. Because otherwise, during the fires, they think it's playtime when we go to try to get them in the horse trailer. And they will make you run over everything. So now we have trained you guys to come up here. They are post their summer shave, so they're gonna get shaved like in the next month or so, and then they'll look really skinny. But these guys are rescues because they're infertile.
I see.
So they would have been turned into alpaca jerky. But they called us and said, oh, we want them. So we took them on and we take them, and they're very sweet. And I love Blackjack because I always say he's got like the buck teeth.
Yeah, I see that.
But
It's
sometimes
cute.
people call him Bob Marley. Put one hand out. There you go. And I'm gonna feed, so you're gonna feed Blackjack, and what's gonna happen, is come with me.
They're like, oh boy. We're gonna feed.
Yeah, if you go over here to Blackjack, you can just feed him out of your hand.
Good.
So he's the sentry, so he's the beta.
Yeah.
And she's the dominant, which is why I have to keep feeding her, because she'll try to actually steal the bowl.
Oh, I see.
Are you being a good girl?
It's friendly.
So I've had to train him so he gets some stuff, because she would steal all of his food. She would literally steal all of his food.
Yeah.
And these guys are like chipmunks, where they actually put it in, like they will keep eating even if their mouth is full.
Put it in their pocket or something.
Yeah. But you see, they actually have 3 lips. They're in the same species, the same family as elephants and stuff.
3 lips.
Yeah, because they've got, if you look at his mouth, see, she's got one on, so those are actually 2 lips on the top. They actually can split open, and then she's got a bottom lip.
Wow.
Yeah, aw, is that the cranky sound?
Awesome.
No, you've been a good girl. Come here. Come here. No, but see, they're like, and she'll be like, where's my food? Where's my food? I smell it.
I wanted to thank Justin for taking his time during the day to show us this amazing sanctuary property. It's mind-blowing, as you saw. And thank you for coming along, and I'll let Justin say anything he'd like to say to you guys.
Yeah, so one thing I'd like to say is that, you know, we live in a world right now where things are very sharp and very harsh. And if there's one principle we follow here at the Temple of Isis, our founder used to say we follow Katma, not dogma.
Love it.
So it really is about self-realization, finding out who you are. You know, one of the core principles we have at the temple is that we don't bow before deity, right? We pray to them. It's a mutual receptive thing. So anyone can pray to the divine. It's all about just trying to be compassionate, understanding, and being in love with the world and with as much as we can be. So when you're out in the world, if you can just be compassionate and speak with a gentleness, because the world is very sharp, and I think we're all still getting over the isolation from COVID.
Yeah.
You know, they know that when you put somebody in solitary confinement in a prison for 1 week, they lose a lot of social skills. So just imagine us all being locked up for a year plus.
Yeah.
We're all learning how to be human again. So if we can be kind and we can be open, and that's what this place is. We try to create a sanctuary for everybody, from the humans in our housing program to the animals that we take in as a forever home. We try to create a place of acceptance and love without judgment.
Awesome.
And that's how I'm gonna end it. Thank you guys. And if you wanna find us, it's thetempleofisis.org, Isis Oasis Sanctuary.org, and you can find us on Facebook, Isis Oasis. And
All right.
thank you.
Thanks for coming along, guys. I'll see you in the next video.